What's up, guys? Leyton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, and we're back again with another recording for the Russia card. The giveaway is obviously available. Put down a comment, try and win that. Not a good card, the last card, really fun card to watch. Amazing card, but as far as betting goes, a bit of a loss. Not too bad of a loss, but I did take a loss on that card. A couple bets that won, but didn't even get me back to breaking even. However, I was very close with the Dustin Poirier prediction, round 1 TKO. If that came in, it would have been a very different story. We would have had some beautiful profit. But yeah, tough card for me, but we're looking to bounce back with the Russia card. So thank you for supporting, subscribe, smack down a comment, and enjoy the breakdown.
And welcome to episode 27 of UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and I'm here as always with my co-host Leyton to break down the latest card from with the UFC, I should say, from St. Petersburg, Russia. The main event being Alistair Overeem versus Oleinik. This is UFC Fight Night 149, ESPN+7 Plus, whatever else it's on. As always, I'm here with my co-host Lane. What up, buddy?
Yo, yo, yo. Okay, so before we get into this card, we'll recap the co-main and main of the last card. Adesanya versus Gastelum. Just amazing. Amazing from both guys. Gastelum has so much heart. Adesanya, once again, adversity comes his way and he rises above it. Just amazing war between both guys, back and forth. I actually had that 4-1 to Adesanya. I actually gave him the first round even though he got dropped. But yeah, 3-2, most people had that, and that's fair. Amazing fight. What did you think of it?
I mean, it was a fantastic fight. A lot of different people almost had their predictions correct, I think, with Gastelum catching them there early.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these are just the kind of wins that just make a fighter so much better, because he really did, I feel, have a pretty masterful performance when he was in control, style bender. And he also was reminded that he can lose very easily. He's got to figure out some way, I think, to get to championship weight too. I think it's kind of interesting. He came in at 183. Some people may argue against me on that, but I would like to just see a little bit more muscle added to that frame, which I think maybe he's doing and just doing intelligently and carefully. But I really like the fight. I think another thing that we kind of got to look at, though, with Gastelum is he just kind of a bridesmaid? Is he always kind of up there, but when it gets to the fight to make him number one, he kind of falters a little bit?
Well, he's going to be back there, whether it takes 4 or 5 fights.
Do you think he's going to stay at 185, though, or do you think he's going to try to kill himself and get to 170 again?
I mean, he could try do that. But I don't know, man.
That's where I get held up. I just think most definitely he's a 185er, but
a very small one.
But I mean, the thing is, these top tier guys are just too big and too skillful for him. And and it's not like the biggest guys at 185 that are proving to be too big. I mean, Weidman, I think, proved to just outsize him, and I think a lot of ways Stylebender did in their fight. He just was too long. He was too long and close to being as strong as Gastelum. Gastelum just, I'm not sure what he does from here, but that's what holds me up from, really getting very excited about him. I think this was one of the best opportunities I think he'll have to win a title.
Fair play.
So we'll see. But it was a great fight.
Main event.
I'll say something controversial, and I'll say I enjoyed the main event more. I thought the main event was my favorite fight of the year. I really enjoyed it, and for those two guys to come out and perform the way they did, knowing what had just happened in the ring there in the octagon. I mean, put a lot more pressure on them. They fought each other before, and it was nothing like their first fight. It really wasn't. Obviously, both guys are just such different fighters now, but we both nailed it, actually.
Well, I nearly nailed it very specifically. I predicted a round 1 TKO for Dustin Poirier. And I think I probably came close with that prediction like 4 times in that first round. So
he cracked him.
Yeah, I had a loss on that card. But if that TKO come in, I would have won back, broke even, and even finished with like 200 or 300 quid. But yeah, great fight. Max Holloway just won't go down.
No. And this was not a loss that ruined Max Holloway's legacy in any way either. I think it adds to it.
And Dana White said he wants to see him back at 145. I agree, man. I don't want Max Holloway to be that guy who comes up to 155. He's still great to watch, but will lose to the likes of Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Khabib.
I mean, the thing that people kept, showing the pictures comparing the two, and it was in no way, I thought, shocking. I mean, seeing 10 pounds off of a 155-pound frame, obviously you're going to see some differences. And I did see a little bit of the sunken cheeks with him, but I've seen guys cut down to 145 and look so much worse. And I just think size-wise, his size is so much better utilized at 145. 155, he's just another guy.
I agree.
And well, most people I don't mean skill-wise, but I just mean with regards to physicality. And it's not like at 145 his gas tank is any worse. So that's someone where I am like, yeah, you probably should keep cutting that weight.
Yeah.
But
fair play. Well, most people said before the fight, like, Max Holloway is going to be bigger than Dustin Poirier in there. And I was like, really? Like, height-wise, maybe, but we really didn't see that.
Not width-wise. No, I mean, Dustin is a thick boy, former fat guy. So he's a former fat guy too. So he used to be quite overweight, if I'm remembering correctly. So he's got this. But in all seriousness, he's got this frame that you can. Yeah, exactly. He's got this frame that is ready to be filled out now with like useful muscle, as opposed to when he was just a fat guy. But anyways, as much as people enjoy hearing us talk about this, I have a feeling this probably isn't the part of the podcast that people tune in for. If you're tuning in for this card, first of all, I acknowledge you are legit. This is a hardcore fans fight card. If you're wherever you are, it is starting at Russian local time. So for us in the States, it's going to be like a 9 a.m., 10 a.m. start on 420 if you participate in the holiday. So just remember that. But also, just a reminder, we are 2 fans. We do our best with Russian names, but if we come up with a couple of nicknames on here, or if we butcher a couple names, we're doing our best to be respectful. We're doing our best to replicate what we're hearing here. But I had a bunch of tape I was watching that was all in Russian. I mean, including the commentary, including the titles of the YouTube videos. So, I mean, this is a hardcore fans fight card, but I feel I have a pretty good grasp on some of these matchups, including with some debuting fighters. So appreciate if you tuned in, and I'm ready to jump into this one.
Let's do it.
On initial look, I was just like, this is just some Russian card. They're just trying to get through it. And when you look closer at some of these matchups, I was pleasantly surprised. And the main event and co-main event are extremely relevant fights. So let's jump into it here. We are starting at 155, correct?
Yes.
And it is between long-lost Magomed Mustafaev. Sorry, it's been almost 3 years since I saw him last lose to Kevin Lee. And before that, he really looked legit. So hopefully we can hear a little bit about where he's been versus Rafael Fiziev. And Rafael Fiziev, his nickname is Adaman. So Rafael Adaman, whatever that means, he fights out of Phuket top team or Phuket top team.
Yeah,
and he is 6-0. We have a few guys on here from that team. It's kind of a little bit of a up and coming Muay Thai type camp. He's 6-0 with 5 TKOs and a submission. So about Rafael, I was able to check out a few of his fights, and the guy is all about action from what I can see. He uses his Muay Thai as much as he can. He had more pure Muay Thai fight tape that I could find than MMA, but I was able to find those as well. And I think he's going to be all about action in this fight as well. I think he's going to be aware he's taking on a guy who's been off for 3 years, I believe, if my math is correct.
About 2.5, nearly 3.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not exactly sure why. I tried finding, but I had trouble. But Rafael also has a Sambo background, so he appears to have some well-rounded skills. Yeah, I just don't know what to expect from Magomed after 3 years out. And I think Rafael, who's been pretty active in his combat sports scene, I think he's going to come out and try to overwhelm him early. What holds me back is the level of competition that Fiziev has faced. Not great, at least not in pure MMA. But I don't know. I'm just going to take Rafael as the more active fighter, and he's going to come out and be aggressive. And I think he takes the first 2 rounds, and maybe by the 3rd round, Magomed finds his bearings a little bit. But I see a 29-28 decision type performance for Rafael.
Nice. Okay, so Magomed Mustafaev comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC. Some time off, like you said, 2.5, nearly 3 years. His last loss was to Kevin Lee, which was his last fight.
Do you know why he was out, or not sure?
I heard that he broke his arm in that fight, but that's nearly 3 years.
Arm break.
Yeah. So yeah, I did hear that.
So is he like active in other combat sports or anything?
I don't believe so. I haven't seen any other fights. And
USADA didn't get a hold of him, right?
Yeah, I mean, Magomed actually claimed Kevin Lee was on steroids in that fight. So, yeah.
Kevin Lee kind of looked like he was on steroids back then.
And that's exactly what I said rewatching that fight. Okay,
I mean, Kevin Lee did look. We won't get into. I don't mean to interrupt, but Kevin Lee did look on a different level. Even in the Tony Ferguson fight, and he has not looked to that level since. So I'll be interested to see.
I mean, I rewatched that fight, and I was thinking to myself, where was this Kevin Lee in the first 7 to 8 minutes against Al? Like, where was he?
No kidding.
That comment made a little bit of sense to me, but I don't want to get into that too much.
And I think Kevin looked like a better athlete in his first fight against Al too. But I don't want to really get into that either because I just started thinking about it. But go ahead, let's talk about Magomed.
Okay, so Magomed, he's got great grappling. He definitely hung in there with Kevin Lee in that fight. He's very well rounded. He's quick. He's powerful. And yeah, the time off is obviously worrying. You don't want to see that. Nearly 3 years. But yeah, he's coming up against a good kickboxer, a Muay Thai kickboxer. And I believe Rafael actually has a loss in Muay Thai to someone named Leyton. That's not me. It was Leyton Collymore. And I watched that fight, and I was very impressed with that fight.
That's something.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Leyton Collymore.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything for this fight, but that was nice to see. So yeah, did you take Rafael?
I did.
You did? Okay, we're going to disagree to start the card off.
It's about time after one disagreement last card. By the way, which you got right. Shout out to you getting Frivola over fucking Jalen Turner.
Yeah, so I think the grappling's going to be the difference. And I'm actually going to take a round 1 submission for Magomed Mustafaev.
You think he just gets right back in there and doesn't miss a step? Just okay. Yeah, maybe I'm putting too much onto the 3. The unexplained 3-year absence troubles me. If there was an explanation, I'd almost feel better about it.
Yeah.
But it's unexplained, and I just makes me wonder was he thinking about maybe not fighting anymore? Or like what was the deal? I really was impressed with Magomed before the Kevin Lee fight and even in the Kevin Lee fight.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I will say I'm not confident in any picks apart from one. Obviously, I'm gonna do parlays with these guys that I pick, but if you had to ask me for my 5 out of 5 most confident, there's only one on this card. So I could have a terrible card.
I wonder if we have the same 5 out of 5 here. We'll talk about at the end here, but I have a feeling we do.
Yeah. Okay. Give me the odds for that one.
Yeah, the odds, man. I mean, like I'm just pulling up the odds screen here, and all I can say is that I am very, very happy looking at these odds throughout the card. A lot of 100s throughout. So I think we may have some disagreements. But Magomed is the minus 185 favorite. So plus 150 to Rafael. So a decent underdog, but pretty good odds for Rafael making his UFC debut here.
And with the time off as well. I mean, he's a good kickboxer from what I've seen, so he really could.
Yeah, and his BJJ didn't look terrible. I don't expect him to be able to choke out Magomed, but I think maybe he doesn't get too overwhelmed if Magomed tries to really use the sambo here.
Yeah.
But usually you see guys making their debut against a guy who's 4-1, 5-1, and they're more in the plus 180 range. So at plus 150, I'm kind of surprised. It's a little closer than I thought, but.
Yeah,
taking an underdog to the leadoff. So
fair play.
We're
on to
next. Right?
Yeah, Antigulov versus. Yep. I'm not even going to attempt that name, but we have a nickname here at UFC Gambling Addicts. Lord Juicer. So yeah, this is a decent fight. I'll be breaking down Antigulov. He comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC. Another Russian who has extremely good grappling, that Khabib style where he'll shoot right for the ankle. He's got that smothering style on top. So yeah, in his loss to Cutelaba, basically he just completely gassed himself out. Shot a few times, got a few takedowns, and he just exhausted himself. And Cutelaba, being the big puncher that he is, finished him off. So, looking at this fight, I'm assuming the same kind of thing's going to happen. Antigulov's going to go in there, shoot for the takedown, look to get the sub in round 1. And if it goes past round 1, I think Lord Juicer takes over, outstrikes him on the feet, and just basically cruises to a decision after the first round, or even gets a finish if Antigulov is as exhausted as he was in his last fight. But it's a close pick. And I'm going to take Antigulov. I think if he's able to get that takedown in the first round, and I think he will, I think he could get a sub. So, I'll bank on that first round. So I'll take Antigulov via submission in round number 1.
Okay, I will be breaking down Michelle Lord Oleksiejczuk. Or Lord Juicer, and he earned that nickname after popping with USADA after beating Khalil Roundtree. So there's a little context for you. And if you say that's disrespectful, I say cheating and fighting is more disrespectful. Yes. So 13-2 overall. Anyways, I like him as a fighter, though. Spoiler alert. So I don't have to like these people as people to enjoy their fighting. 13-2 overall. 9 TKOs and a submission. So guy's a hard hitter. Again, second straight guy with only 1 submission, and a lot of finishes by TKO. 1-0-1 because of that USADA test against Khalil Roundtree, but he was able to come back and take out John Vellante in 1:30. So he's got a place in my heart because I think that may have been John Vellante's last fight in the octagon. So he was good for something. So he doesn't, like Lord Juicer, you look at him, he doesn't look like he juices, for one. He doesn't look very intimidating. Looks like he carries a little bit of fat around the hips. Definitely doesn't look like this super athlete, but has this legit power and is able to keep the fight standing for the most part. Antigulov coming off pretty bad beating against Ion Cutelaba after a first round in which he was successful with the takedowns. And so I think Antigulov knows what he had to improve on, which is his cardio. The question is, can he do it? And I'm just not sure he can. I've got Lord Juicer to get a second round TKO here. I think in the first round he'll be interested in really looking for Antigulov to use up a lot of his energy, whether that's stalling in the clinch or whether it's beating him up a little bit. But I think by the second round, Lord Juicer will prove to be the superiorly conditioned athlete, and he carries power. And I'll take a second round TKO for the 24-year-old Michel Lord Juicer.
Nice. That's a fair pick. That's a fair pick, man. The odds.
Yeah, it's a good fight. It's a good striker versus grappler fight. I mean, this is throughout this card, you have a lot of really good matchups, actually, even if the fighters themselves aren't the most relevant right now. But Lord Juicer is getting some respect, minus 225.
Oh, okay.
Plus 175 to Antigulov. It opened minus 170 to plus 130. Yeah. So the money has shifted to Lord Juicer.
Wow, that's two disagreements.
A little bit of short-term memory with just remembering how Antigulov looked at the end of that fight.
Well,
I mean, he still looked really good in that first round, but
yeah.
It is.
How old is he? I think he's like 30, 31 now.
Antigulov is only 31. He looks like he's about 40. So, that's one of those.
You can't teach a dog new tricks, right? An old dog. Yeah, he's 32.
Yeah, he's 32 years old, and he's fighting out of American Top Team, which I did not know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So he fights out of a good camp, and I mean, before that fight, his other two appearances in UFC, so this could be a dog that really could get you some money, and a pretty large dog at this point. So
yeah, well, I'm banking on the first round. So if it goes out of the first round, I'm, basically accepting defeat, but I'll put some money on the first round. And that moves us on into the third fight. We have Marcin Tybura versus Shamil Abdurakhimov. What a name.
Yep.
What a name.
Nice job with the name pronunciation.
Yeah. Okay, so Marcin Tybura, 4-3 inside the UFC. He's quite a tricky heavyweight, to be honest. I last saw him in Germany against Stefan Struve, where he basically just went for takedown after takedown. Keeps you guessing with his hands to set up the kicks. He's only lost to good guys. I mean, he lost to Timothy Johnson, but
Timothy Johnson's not bad.
Yeah, that guy will just wear on you, man. He's done that to so many guys.
Yeah, he should still be in the UFC. He's over in Bellator now, but
yeah, I mean, his last fight was a win as well. So
yeah,
just cut him out. So yeah, Marcin Tybura, 4-3 inside the UFC. Before the UFC, he fought a lot of great guys over in M1. So yeah, it's a decent matchup. Shamil is probably gonna look to grapple, put him up against the fence. I think Luis Enrique actually held Marcin Tybura up against the fence for quite a few minutes. So, Shamil's probably going to be able to do the same thing. But if the fight's at kickboxing distance, I think Marcin Tybura basically outscores Shamil on the feet. And Marcin Tybura has a good top game as well. So I'm going to take Marcin Tybura by TKO in the second round.
Yeah, you don't sound too convinced by that.
Yeah,
that sounds like a one. Yeah, this is a very tough. This is one that a coin is going to be more accurate than me. I think.
Legit, man.
That's how I feel with this fight. So Shamil Abdurakhimov, he is 19-4 overall, so pretty impressive record. 8 TKOs and 4 submissions in those 19 wins. He's 4-2 in the UFC, and he has 2 straight wins coming over Arlovsky and Chase Sherman since he got knocked out by Derek Lewis in a fight that he was also winning. But what else is new? Um, basically, Abdurakhimo, he's a solid heavyweight, has decent mobility for the division, and he's never going to be a top 10 heavyweight, but he's right in this area where he's a good test for most in the division. Like I said, this is a total coin flip, and I'm taking Tybura by decision.
Nice.
I could see someone betting on whoever the underdog is in this fight, and I could understand why. Yeah. And the odds, I don't have too much more to say. I don't think it's going to be a super exciting heavyweight matchup. Yeah, they're solid heavyweights, but I just don't see this one being too thrilling. Minus 165 to Tybura, plus 135 for Shamil.
Yeah,
so
that seems right. That seems fine to me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm glad I see it minus 175 on some sites, minus 155. So the closer you can get to even, I think the better for you here. So not much more to say there. Let's move on to the next fight, which we may not have much more to say about either.
Yep.
That's between Alex da Silva, I'll say, and versus Alexander, best nickname of the night, the Thunder of the North, Yakovlev. I think that's a new nickname for him. So Alexander Yakovlev, I'll be breaking down. He's 34 years old now, 23-8 overall, 9 TKOs, 6 submissions in those 23 wins. He's 2-4, and he's currently on a 2-fight losing streak. However, one of those losses came to Kamaru Usman, and the other came to Zach Cummings at 170 by armbar. So he's basically had a pretty average start to his UFC career. He's had wins coming over Gray Maynard and George Sullivan, so take that as you will. He's another one of these just kind of average dudes, and I hate to keep saying that, but he just doesn't really stand out in one area more than any other to me. He seems like he's fighting an exciting athletic kid here. Yakovlev does have the type of style that can neutralize that kind of attack, but I think he's going to get overwhelmed here and knocked out in the first round by Alex da Silva, the newcomer.
Nice. Okay, so Alex da Silva comes into this fight making his octagon debut. Most of his fights being at 145. This one's at 155. Alexander spending most of his career at 170. So they're meeting in the middle at 155. So my main worry for this fight would be Alexander having the strength advantage. And I believe early on in his career, quite a few years ago, he actually survived on the mat for 15 minutes with Damian Maia. So, if I see...
That was his debut, I think.
Yeah, so if I see Alexander get that takedown, I'm going to be a little bit worried. But from what I've seen for Alex da Silva, he's throwing up triangles on his back. He looks very well-rounded. On the feet, he has a very nasty calf kick that I've been very impressed with. So on the feet, I'm going to give the speed advantage and just overall advantage to Alex da Silva from what I've seen. But if Alexander looks to make it a dirty fight, really pressing the action, closing that leg kicking distance, looking to put him up against the fence, it could get very interesting. But I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Alex da Silva, but I'm going to take a decision.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I just maybe I'm a little wishful thinking with the first round, but we'll see. But da Silva, from what I can find, minus 110 for him, minus 130 for Yakovlev. So
wow,
looking like pick 'em.
Yeah,
pick 'em.
Okay, so moving on to the next one. This is the 5th fight of the card. We have who the hell knows kind of fight here in Sultan Aliev versus Keita Nakamura, and I'll be breaking down the Russian. It comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC.
That's not Nakamura, right? That was a joke. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys like with 2-1 records in this on this card. So Yeah, we could
This is a separator type card. They're trying to figure out, do we have something here, or do we have just kind of guy who's going to pack up the China card?
Some people may be fighting for their job on this card. Legit.
And I think some people are fighting to see who's going to come into America, who's going to get some fights on maybe a card with a number behind it, like a pay-per-view. I think that's what these kind of cards are a lot of the times for.
Yeah.
So go ahead with Sultan Aliev.
Sultan Aliev comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC. Brutally knocked out in his debut. Then I believe he won a close split decision. And then in his last fight, he was doing okay against Warlley Alves for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then he started to get beaten up pretty bad. And then that was a doctor stoppage in the corner with like a massive bleeding like on his brain or some weird shit. But it was horrible.
It was not good. Yeah.
So yeah, looking at this fight, I'll be honest with you. I'm not confident about any picks apart from one, and that fight hasn't come up yet. I'm not confident picking here. I wouldn't be confident picking any guy. You know, when you look at this fight standing, Nakamura's probably, going to land those body kicks, go high with the kick every now and then. He's going to land the calf kick. It's up to Sultan Aliev. He has to close the distance and not have a chess match with Nakamura. Having said that, if he does close the distance, finds himself in the clinch up against the fence or tries to work like that, if he gets the takedown, we know how good Nakamura is off of his back. It's a really tough fight to predict because I wouldn't be confident picking Nakamura, and I'm just not confident in Aliev. I'm gonna take Sultan Aliev. I've never picked him in the UFC. This is the first time I've ever picked him. And I think if he just grinds, he probably gets a close decision over Nakamura. So I'll take Sultan Aliev close decision win.
Okay, I will be breaking down Keita Nakamura. He is 34 years old. He's 34-9 with 7 TKOs and 16 submissions. He's 4-3 in the UFC. He's alternated wins and losses his entire career. And good news for Sultan, he's coming off a split decision win against Salim Torhiri. I don't really remember the fight, but went back and watched it, and it was a typical Nakamura close decision type performance. The 3 losses for Nakamura, though, were Tom Breeze, Zaleski Dos Santos, and Tony Rocco Martin, and all by decision. So 3 pretty solid guys. And he's really just a solid, crafty guy who really kind of hangs in there every fight, even in his losses, I think. He doesn't exactly look like he doesn't belong in there and doesn't look like he does belong in there, if that makes sense. He's just kind of pretty adequate. And I think he mixes up at the right times against Sultan, and I think he ends up working in a rear naked choke in the 3rd round to finish Sultan by submission.
Fair play.
So I'll take Nakamura. That will be, I believe, our 3rd disagreement in 5 fights.
Yep.
Maybe 2nd. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 2nd. But
wait, did you take Shamil? Or no, you took Marcin Tybura, right?
No, I took Tybura, so 2nd.
Yeah.
So 2nd in 5.
That's the 3rd.
Oh, it is the 3rd.
You took Lord Juicer Raphael?
Yeah, I took Lord Juicer. Yep. Yeah, 3rd out of 5. Yeah, so coming off a 1 out of 12 disagreements in the last fight. It's good to be.
It's good to be back to disagreeing.
Yeah, it feels a little bit more right. And Nakamura is a slight favorite at minus 125 plus, so even for Sultan. So
that's nice to hear. Because I'm not confident in Sultan. And apparently not many people are too confident in Nakamura. So interesting.
Yeah. It's one where it's hard to find who's. This is one where it's hard to find who to be more confident in. So whoever you pick here, I'm not going to totally disagree with you. And just a little heads up for the next fight, there are no odds currently available, just to make it a little more hard to break down.
Fair play.
So.
And that fight is Movsar Evloev versus Sung Woo Choi. And I'll be completely honest, straight up, I haven't seen any tape on this guy. I've tried to find it. Yeah, I've tried to find it.
Can't find it anywhere.
I found interviews. So, obviously, interviews isn't going to tell me whether this guy can win. So I feel like, this fight, we're both only going to say things about Evloev. From what I've seen, the guy is great. But yeah, he's your guy. I'll let you break him down. But I know you're disappointed he's not debuting at 135, and I'm disappointed too, because from what I've seen at 135, he looks very overpowering. But yeah, go ahead. Take it away with him.
So most of our Evloev, 25 years old. He's 10-0 with 3 TKOs and 4 submissions. And kid looks absolutely promising just about everywhere from what I've seen. His hands look really, really good. He's got some good wrestling, nice submissions. And he faced some decent competition on his way to his debut. So he's facing some guys who he faced, I believe his last fight was against a guy who had been in the UFC for a fight, but I may be getting him confused with the fight later on. But either way, I thought he was a real prospect at 135. And I think, I do think he gets a TKO. And I originally had the TKO coming with wrestling and ground and pound. And I think I'm going to stick to that. I was not aware it was going to be a 145 though. So I'm betting on the power still translating up to 145 here, and him having to cut a little less weight and it actually benefiting him.
Nice.
Maybe. So I really think he's a legit prospect either way. And I think we'll see him eventually at 135 because that's where he really looks like he could be a difference maker.
Nice.
But couldn't find anything on Choi, so makes me assume that they're trying to showcase the Russian here.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the odds are, because how many people have seen this kid. So, but yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Evloev too. But I'm actually going to take a submission. I'm going to take a submission in round number 2. His body triangle in some of his fights, he is so precise when he's in the body triangle. Just with his punches, he kind of annoys you before he goes for the rear naked choke. He looks very, very well rounded. So yeah, I'm with you on Evloev. So moving on to the next one, we have, what do we have here? We have Jotko versus Amedovski, and I'll be breaking down Amedovski. Okay, so I remember this guy. 8-0 as a pro, making his debut. I've watched some tape. From what I've seen, he just comes forward and he's throwing bombs. And if he catches you with a bomb, from what I've seen, you go to sleep. He's had 2 fights in Bellator, both fights very quick fights, quick TKOs. And now he's looking to make the next step up, which is the UFC. And he's debuting against a guy who's on a 3-fight losing streak. But he's very well-rounded. Jotko is very well-rounded. I think he's going to have the reach and height advantage in this one. And I think he's going to make it very tricky for the newcomer here. From what I've seen with Amedovski, he looks good. I'm seeing these knockouts. I'm seeing him perform well, but I don't know how good he is. I don't know the level of competition that he's supposed to be fighting. Having said that, we've seen Jotko go to sleep a couple times recently. See, if Amedovski lands one of those bombs, it could be 4 fights in a row that he's lost. But I'm going to stick with Jotko. He's lost 3, but I'm going to stick with him. And I'm going to take a round 1 TKO for Jotko.
Okay. Wow. Sorry. Took a little too big of a hit there. Just got to recover for a second. We're good. Okay. I will be breaking down Krzysztof Jotko. Only 29 years old, 19-4 overall, 6 of those coming by TKO, 1 by submission. He is 6-4 in the UFC, and as you said, he's lost 3 straight, 2 of which coming by a pretty brutal KO. 1 versus Uriah Hall, and then Brad Tavares is coming in the 3rd round, I believe, and that was pretty. That was a pretty rough one.
Devastating.
Whenever I look at Jotko, I'm often reminded of Jack Hermansson for some reason. Both guys really do remind me of each other. However, obviously Hermansson's getting ready to fight Jacare next week, the week after this card, I should say, while Jotko is on a 3-fight losing streak and facing a debuting knockout artist. So kind of shows how the different trajectories, but both guys just were over in Europe at the same time, and there were rumors back that they were going to fight in Cage Warriors a while back, so before they're in the UFC. So I've just always seen those two as similar, but anyways, Jotko is fighting in Russia against a newcomer now, so and it's all about, can Jotko avoid the TKO? And I think particularly early, can he avoid it? I think that this is definitely a step up in competition for Amedovski, or Allen, as I'll call him from here on out. And I think that in this fight, I think Jotko looks to kind of avoid dangers on the feet, and I think he uses his wrestling a little bit and a little bit of grappling to try to surprise Allen and take him deep into the fight. And I think he may have success and may be able to even snag up a submission, but I'll take Jotko to get a decision.
Nice.
Really needs this fight. I think losing 3 straight is obviously something to always consider, but at the same point, I think guys on 3-fight losing streaks have a pretty 3-fight UFC losing streaks have a pretty decent record in their 4th. And
well, they're fighting for their job at this point. This is another one where he can't lose this.
Yeah, and he knows how he loses this fight, and so I just think he doesn't leave himself in jeopardy to be knocked out for the 3rd straight time. This being his 11th fight in the UFC versus Allen's first fight, I gotta take Jotko. And I'll take the decision, but I would love to see him make a real statement and get a finish by submission.
Nice.
The odds are -190 for Jotko, +155 for Amedovski. So I can understand those odds. I think those are pretty fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you're, banking on Jotko getting clipped, that's fair. He really could. He's been clipped hard recently in his last 3 fights, so it could happen again here. But yeah, we've agreed there on Jotko. I'm happy to agree. And moving on into the 8th fight of the card. This is the one I'm 5 out of 5 about, and I'll tell you for why. Antonina Shevchenko versus Roxanne Modafferi. Okay, so Shevchenko comes into this fight officially making her debut, I believe. She's fought on the Contender Series, and she fought on the Ultimate Fighter finale, where she beat Ji-Yeon Kim. And in that fight, I assumed Kim would only have success with grappling. And I believe the same thing happens in this fight. Roxanne Modafferi only has a chance with grappling and takedowns. And we learned and we've seen how good Antonina Shevchenko is in the clinch. She's a Muay Thai kickboxer, just like her sister. They've trained in Muay Thai kickboxing for a very long time. And I believe, she's just going to win every single second this fight is not on the mat. I see Roxanne getting pieced up. I see Antonina's movement being nothing short of beautiful. And, if Roxanne shoots for the takedown and she's able to get on top, then we're looking at a different fight, because Modafferi is quite dominant when she gets that top position. She's very strong. So yeah,
very fundamental with her positioning.
Yeah, I mean, if she gets the takedown, she has a good chance. But every second this is on the feet, Antonina is running away with the fight, in my opinion. So for those reasons, I'm going to make Antonina my most confident pick on this card. And it's a women's fight. I'm not great at predicting women's fight. But yeah, I'm going to take Antonina via a very dominant decision.
Okay, I will be breaking down the Happy Warrior, Roxanne Modafferi. She's now 36 years old, 22-15 overall, 1-2 in the UFC. She's always going to be brought up as one of the pioneers for women's MMA, and has been doing so for a long time. And I don't find her to be the most impressive or explosive fighter, but I give her credit for being able to stick around. She really uses her awkwardness and her size and good fundamentals to be able to survive this long, I think. But I think she's in for a tougher matchup than any of her other fights in the UFC and Shevchenko here. And my real question is, does Shevchenko finish or not? Because I think she's going to be pretty dominant in this fight, and I say she is able to finish. And I'll take a second round TKO for Antonina Shevchenko.
Nice.
But I could see a dominant decision as well. But she's my most confident pick on the card.
Fair play.
So,
and the odds on that one?
Yeah. Not bad. Minus 325 plus 275 for Roxanne.
So there you go. I mean,
I think it could be even more, closer to 4.
Yeah, but I mean, plus 275. Pretty much everyone putting money on that fight pretty much agrees. If she gets a takedown, she has a chance. But even in the clinch, Antonina's going to be throwing those tinies. So yeah, she has to get the takedown and be on top to stand a chance. If she finishes her on the feet, I will be amazed. So yeah, moving on into the next one. Fight number 9 on the card. Devin Clark versus, I'm going to call this guy the Russian Hulk. And this guy, he looks like the Hulk. He's 16-0 as a pro. He's making his debut.
Ivan Shtyrkov.
Yeah, just go watch some tape on this guy. If you've not seen this guy, go watch some tape. I promise you now, this guy has been on steroids his whole career. If this guy hasn't been on steroids his whole career, no one has ever taken steroids. That's a fact.
He does not pass the smell test. Yeah. Everybody who seems to have seen a picture of him seems to say the same thing. So go ahead and
it's
Google
different
that.
level. It's worse than Gleason Tebow. That's how bad it is. So yeah, from what I've seen,
looks like Yoel Romero on steroids.
Yeah. So he's
It's maybe very redundant to say, actually.
Yeah, he's a huge power puncher. He's roided up to the gills. Probably come off of the steroids now for the debut, so he's probably going to look a little bit more flat, Brock Lesnar style.
Or Hector Lombard.
Yeah.
He's show other Thunderbolt, Lightning Bolt, Mr. Captain.
Yeah.
Lightning.
So I give him 1 round. I give him 1 round to finish Devin Clark. If he doesn't finish him in 1 round, this could become a conditioning battle. And Devin Clark has proven to us he has got good wrestling, man. That's what he looks to do. That's the only reason Devin Clark is a 205er and not a 185er. His legs are like tree trunks. Anytime Joe Rogan is watching one of his fights, he has to. He just comes out of it like, that guy's legs like tree trunks. His legs are so thick, and
got those canned hams.
Yeah, he shoots, he puts guys up against the fence, and he uses those big legs, man. He's a very strong guy when it comes to grappling and shooting for takedowns. So after round 1, I basically see that being the story. Devin Clark basically having his way, going for the takedown. But at the same time, man, those first 5 minutes, this guy is the Hulk. This guy has got serious punching power, and we've seen Devin Clark be, hit by these guys like Rakic, and these other guys. So, Yeah, I'm going to take the Hulk here. I'm going to take the Russian Hulk, the roided Hulk, and I'm going to take that round 1 TKO. So this is the second fight that I'm banking it finishes in the first because I'm not confident outside of the first. But I'll take the Hulk here by TKO.
Okay. I'll be breaking down the brown bear, Devin Clark, out of Jackson Winklejohn, 9-3, 3 TKOs and a submission. He's 3-3 in the UFC. His most notable win is Jack Collier by decision. So yeah, he's got losses by KO to Alex Nicholson, who's no longer in the UFC and having losses out of the UFC, and he got rear naked choked by Jan Blachowicz.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of an average lightweight who looks to wrestle for the most part. He's a little undersized for the division, I think. And I think that he'll not look to deviate from that game plan here against a dangerous guy. But I think Ivan has a round to finish him if he does. If he does finish him in that first, I would not be shocked. But I'm going to actually take Devin Clark to get a wrestle out of the decision. I think that if Ivan wins, let's wait for the drug tests to come back before we say anything. Because I think USADA may be playing a factor in this guy's career moving forward. But if that's not the case, I think he can definitely finish Devin Clark, who's shown he is finishable by lesser opponents. So...
Yeah, that's a fair pick.
I'll take Devin Clark to wrestle out of the EKI decision and also a fight that he really needs. I don't think he can afford to go much lower than 3-4 in the UFC and keep a job. So the odds have it for the Russian Hulk -185, Devin Clark at a +150. So
that's a little crazy considering. Yeah. You know, if he's not on steroids now and this goes out of the first round, we could see like a conditioning battle. Maybe Russia's just letting him chill for this fight.
Maybe I mean, I've seen Icarus, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Fair play.
So
okay, so moving on.
Yeah, we disagree again. So that's I think 4 or 5 now.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to the 10th fight on this card, we have another Russian here, Sergey Pavlovich versus Marcelo Golm. And I'll be breaking down the Brazilian. Comes into this fight, 1 win, 2 losses inside the UFC. Rewatching his fights, I'd say Golm is a grappler, but his striking is definitely improving. So yeah, the game plan for him is probably going to be, look to clinch up, close the distance, shoot for a takedown. Considering Pavlovich got finished on the ground by Overeem in his debut. But, this is just another tough fight. I feel like this is like a 50-50 fight. Because Pavlovich, he looked great. Before his debut, in all of those fights, he looked very good. And then in his debut against Overeem, he was just kind of cautious. And you look at all of his fights before that, and he's just steamrolling these guys, literally just coming forward with bombs. So maybe he's going to do that here. I'm banking on that. I'm banking that his this fight here isn't anything like his debut. Maybe octagon jitters, we don't know. Even if that's a real thing, I'm assuming that's a real thing. So yeah, I'm gonna take Pavlovich to get a TKO. I banked on him against Overeem. It didn't happen, but I'm gonna take him here. So I'll take a Sergey Pavlovich TKO in round number 2.
Yeah, you mentioned how Sergey had looked really good in all those, the fights looked good. The one thing that didn't look good in those fights were his opponents.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fat Russian dudes. So he, I think that we'll see in this fight if he's a product of his opponents or a product of his actual production. He's 12-1 though now, 9 TKOs. As you said, he lost his debut to Alistair and rather quickly. And honestly, I've heard of nobody on Sergey's record. So Golm will be the second best guy he's ever fought. And I basically think it's a question of how much damage can Golm take, because I expect Pavlovich to come out and look similar to how he did prior to his UFC debut. And I'm going to take Pavlovich. I'm going to bet on a first-round finish from Pavlovich and give him the TKO finish. So I'm betting that we see a similar Sergey to prior. I think Golm, if I remember correctly, it's kind of a smaller heavyweight also, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But I have trouble remembering Marcelo Golm. So minus 305 favorite for Sergey Pavlovich. So a little bit heavy for me. But
I mean, it's a close fight, man. It's actually really a close fight. Like, if he comes out that cautious
goes to
again,
Pavlovich and Russia.
Yeah, Russia. So. The Russia scoring is pretty bad too. I remember that Cajun Johnson split loss to Kablov, whatever his name is. I had Cajun 2 rounds in that fight, and Russia was just like, nope, not today. So, hopefully we don't see that. You don't like to see that, but it's probably going to be the same. We have Brazil coming up.
If it's close, it goes to Pavlovich. So
yeah. Okay, so co-main event. We have Islam Makhachev versus Arman, and I'm not even going to attempt that.
Tsarukyan.
Yeah, there it was. Okay, so Islam Makhachev comes into this fight 5-1 inside the UFC, 16-1 as a pro. He's an extremely good grappler. He usually has Khabib in his corner, drilling instructions at him, every second of the round, screaming at him in between rounds. He fights very much like Khabib. He'll look to take you down. He has great sambo, smother you, similar to Antigulov, but at 155, and he actually has good conditioning. His stand-up is, it's decent. I'd say it's decent. I wouldn't say it's bad. When these guys start to climb the rankings, people start to say, stuff like, oh, Khabib hasn't got no stand-up. And this is just like strange, weird, casual propaganda. Because you find out later on, like, oh, Khabib dropped Conor McGregor. So yeah, Islam Makhachev obviously has decent stand-up. But primarily he's looking to take you down. His opponent, Arman, from what I've seen, he's very well-rounded. He'll shoot for his own takedown. He has head kick finishes. So yeah, this could be a really, really good co-main event. But I'm going to stick with the Russian. I'm going to take Islam Makhachev to get a round 2 submission.
Okay, fair enough. I will be breaking down Arman Tsarukyan. He is 22 years old. He is 13-1 currently on an 11-fight win streak, 5 KOs and 5 submissions. He's a tough Armenian, looks to be pretty well-rounded and has a good level of aggression from what I've been able to see. He really looks good everywhere, has a variety of strikes that he pairs with a pretty aggressive wrestling game. So his last fight was a head kick finish of this was the guy who fought a former UFC fighter, and that was Felipe Aliev. So probably not a guy you remember. He only had 1 fight, but still fought a guy who's been in the UFC and made him look like an amateur. Knocked him out with a clean head kick. Arman's had quite a few third-round finishes and to go with a couple decisions. So I don't think I have any doubts about his cardio. And seems like he paces himself well and is able to finish a fight at any point. That's something that I really look for in a lot of fighters who are making their UFC debuts, is that they don't just have a bunch of finishes in a minute 19 or something, and then they come into UFC and they're 3 minutes into a first round and they've never been there before. So you can't say that with a guy who has a lot of third-round finishes. He has some decisions, and he's fought some decent competition before coming into the UFC. He's only 22 years old also. Islam, one thing about Islam is he was stopped on the feet by Adrian Martins. So that's a BJJ guy. So it's not impossible to hurt, and it's not impossible to hurt and put away Islam. And Arman definitely appears to have some legitimate potential stopping ability. So I think this is a really interesting fight. I can't take the 22-year-old here as much as I want to. I've got to take Islam. I think Islam takes a similar Khabib type of approach and gets a submission in the second round on Arman. But I think Arman can learn a lot from this fight. And if he wins his debut here, we have a new contender, or not contender, but potential contender here, a new guy at 155 who quickly becomes kind of a factor. So if Arman can come out here and get a quick finish, I'd like to see him fight Alex Hernandez next. I know that's really crazy and a weird random call out, but I think if Arman comes out here and looks like Alex Hernandez, putting those two against each other would be really entertaining. But it's good to see, some Armenians. Kind of throws me back to Karo Parisyan, one of my first favorite UFC fighters. So we'll see. But I can't take him here. I got to take Islam. But this is a tough debut for Arman.
Nice.
And
Good pick.
This is tough odds for me here. Minus 500 for Islam.
Wow.
So that's a Khabib
crazy
effect. That's a Khabib effect.
Wow. I've seen some tape though on Arman, man. He looks good. He looks very good.
Yeah, he's going to be ready for this too. And I don't agree with those odds.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
That is the Khabib effect.
That's crazy.
I believe that is. They know that that's the guy who Khabib fought to make sure he didn't get suspended or cut from the UFC, or and all this. And I think it should be maybe minus 250.
Yeah. So what is Arman?
Arman's a plus 350.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, maybe. So my original approach was going to be ending all my parlays with. Well, actually, no, I can't even say it yet because I haven't got to the main event. But I will say I may end all of my parlays on Islam and cover with Arman at those odds because that is really crazy.
I mean, I've been wrong about other debuting fighters before, mostly the Australian Suman Mkhitaryan. I was really excited about him when he was facing Sadiq Youssef in his debut, and the odds were around this. So, but I don't see Arman. I see Arman being much more ready, and I think we could have a little sneaky value there.
Yeah, that's some crazy odds.
It opened at minus 475, so it's not like the money's really shifted.
Yeah,
it opened huge. So
it's crazy.
There's a lot of faith going into Islam here, and this is just one of these reasons I'm very interested in this event. I have a couple other ones, which I'll get to after the main event here. But let's go ahead and get to the reason a lot of people still hopefully listen, even though the Black Magic is officially done now. I've gotten, 2 straight main events, right?
2 straight. You got Gagey and Dustin. 2 straight, bro. We're going to get 3 straight right here.
I've lost track at this point. But I'm still going to let you do the honors lead off. But it's
that's the ritual of keeping the Black Magic gone. I have to lead it off now. So,
exactly.
So Alistair Overeem, and a guy I really appreciate as being one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC, and especially the heavyweight division. He's extremely underrated. That is Oleinik, a.k.a. King of the Ezekiel. Overeem. What can we say about Overeem? He's 9-6 inside the UFC. He's still trying to be a UFC champ. Fair play. His chin has been absolutely smashed several times in his career. One too many times. And the thing I worry about with Alistair Overeem is, when he comes up against a huge puncher, and even more so after the Francis Ngannou fight. When you see a guy get absolutely destroyed like that, and then Curtis Blades destroys you.
Yeah, Blades one was even more brutal.
Yeah, Joe Rogan said...
Actually, never mind. That I was at the Ngannou one. That was worse. Yeah, sorry.
Joe Rogan said for the Blades one, I think he said something along the lines of, that man just opened him up like a can of tuna. So when your head explodes like that on the mat, it's never great.
Not good.
So yeah, looking at his career, looking at the fighter he is now, you're worried for him when he goes into these fights, knowing how badly beaten he's been at times. But with a guy like Oleksiejczuk, you have to worry about being taken down or even being on top. Alistair Overeem isn't going to look to do that here, although his ground game is very underrated in the UFC. On the feet, obviously I'm going to give this to Alistair Overeem. Oleksiejczuk did drop Mark Hunt, and I did take Oleksiejczuk in that main event, and Alexi was an underdog. I don't think he drops Alistair Overeem. He could hurt him. This is at heavyweight. And, anything can happen at heavyweight, and especially so to Alistair Overeem, knowing how much damage he's taken. He can get hurt here, but, I feel like he's going to circle and score. Similar to how he did against Verdum in most recent, back a couple years ago. He lost that fight, but... Or no, I think he won that. I can't remember if he won or lost that fight. But yeah, I think he's just going to pretty much circle and just piece up Alexi on the outside. So yeah, I think that's the story of this fight, is Alexi failing to get the takedown. So I'll take Alistair Overeem to get a round 3 TKO. And that'll be the end to the underdogs winning in the main event.
Okay. I will be breaking down Alexei the Boa Constrictor Oleinik, 41 years old now, 57-11 with 8 TKOs and 45 submissions.
Very underrated.
6-2 in the UFC, 5 submissions and a KO in his 6 wins. The guy is, I don't say this lightly, a grappling master. Particularly anything involving the neck, whether it's a neck crank or Ezekiel choke. Takes massive damage on his way in, though, and that's really, I think, something that against a guy like Overeem, he's in some real danger. I think Alistair has been subbed once in his career. It was by some guy named Fabricio Verdum. So pretty decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. I actually honestly could see Alexi surprising him on the feet with a strike or two to get him off kilter and get him down and submit him. I think that is ideally how Alexi wins this fight. And I really want to pick that, and I just don't know if he can do it. I think if it does happen, it happens in the first 2 rounds. That's where I see it happening. I think Oleinik has to fight just like he did in his last 2, but Alistair's just so much better than either of those last 2 guys he's fought. So I'm going to also take Alistair by stoppage by 3rd round TKO as well. So I'm just not sure Alexi gets to this height again. So if he comes in and is really, really hungry and even, tries to snap up an arm triangle, even on the feet somehow, just get a hold. If he's just dead set on it somehow, Alexi can do it to anybody. So, and I would love to be wrong. And I really I wanted to go with Oleinik. I just could never change from my first pick, which was Alistair Overeem in this fight, and it was a 3rd round TKO. So I'm going to stick with it. But like I said, if Alexi ends up rocking him on the feet and knocking him out, would not be shocked. 8 out of 14 fights, I believe, Alistair's at least been knocked down by a strike. So that chin, we always talk about the chin with strikes, but if Oleinik gets a hold of, a neck crank or, a face crank type thing, that chin's also weak for maybe a submission. And maybe I'm way off there. But, I mean, the pressure that Oleinik puts on your face if he gets a hold of you and starts to choke is unlike any other fighter. In the UFC, he's fought guys like Travis Brown, who are lethal strikers, and were able to trick them and get them. So he fought guys like Mark Hunt, Alistair Overeem better than both guys, but similar to both guys in a lot of ways too here. So Oleinik's hungry here. He's fighting in front of his hometown. I totally want to pick him, and I've just learned to not go with my heart all the time here. And I'm going to take Alistair and agree with you, third round TKO for me as well. So I think the string of 4 straight underdogs in main events comes to an end here. And the odds are Oleinik at plus 190, minus 225 for Alistair Overeem.
Wow.
I think that's pretty high.
Yeah,
I tilted towards Overeem. I think it should be closer to about 180.
Yeah, I expected Oleinik to be, that sounds fair. That's pretty fair. He's done some good things.
Alistair Overeem's really good.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to be ending all my parlays with the co-main because those odds are insane. That is an easy cover if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
And last week I wasn't in a position where I could cover, so I had to go into the main event with I need Dustin Poirier to TKO Max Holloway, and I was very close. I didn't even break even. I finished minus 100 or so. But with that co-main, those odds, that's a very easy cover, and I can pretty much pray that I'd have a few parlays alive come that fight. So decent card. You're getting up early in the morning, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. or something like that. 3 p.m. start.
I'm going to cover quite a few of my parlays with Oleinik with a submission finish too, because he's already at plus the 190. It's probably about plus 225 or so.
Yeah, that's fair. If he wins, it would be a submission.
Yeah, I think betting on under 5 for that fight too is quite likely too. But yeah, man. This is a card that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I had to really look into this card a little bit before really realize quite what we had here. But I think we have a pretty legitimate and interesting fight card here coming up. So I look forward to it.
Just before we sign off, hit me with your fight of the night.
Fight of the night. I'd love to see Arman versus Islam be that, because that would mean. But let me see.
I'd agree with that. I think the co-main. I think the odds are way off, but I'm happy the odds are the way they are because
I would love for Alistair. You know what? I'm going to go with the main event. Actually, I have rarity here for me. I'll go with the main event to be the fight of the night.
That's decent. Nice.
So yeah, I think Oleinik. They're both going to be really hungry. This is both guys' last chance towards the top, getting to the top. I think. So we'll see, but. Yeah, I like this card. It's well worth getting up early on the holiday for. So, yeah, man. But we will be back next week to break down Jacare and Hermansson.
I called that. I said Hermansson would have to step in. We got that. The Sweden boy is stepping up. He's becoming the next number 1 in Sweden. I don't want to get too excited before we break it down, but... I've enjoyed breaking this card down with you. We're back to another Russia card. I appreciate any American getting up to watch the card. You're a true G if you get up to watch this card, not knowing who anyone is, basically. But until next time.
If you're listening. Or if you're listening to this breakdown. Man.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. And until next time, enjoy the fights, and we'll see you down in the comments. Peace out.
Peace.